Hi guys, sorry to interrupt your viewing, but please subscribe to the channel and like this video. Thank you.
It started like every other Christmas morning since my father passed, quiet, a little forced, with that strange cheerfulness people use when they're pretending everything's fine. The house still smelled like cinnamon and pine, same as it did when I was a kid, but the warmth was long gone. My mother, Linda, was fluttering around in her red cashmere sweater, pouring cheap champagne into even cheaper orange juice, acting like nothing had changed. My sister, Madison, was curled on the couch in one of those oversized Sherpa blankets, fake lashes on, pouty lips, grinning at her phone between sips of mimosa. The woman hadn't known a full-time job in her life, but somehow, every year, her gifts looked like they'd been pulled from the pages of a goddamn Tiffany catalog. I sat on the floor beside the fireplace because the couch had been taken by Madison's cat. Yes, the actual fucking cat had its own blanket and stocking. I didn't say anything. I didn't roll my eyes or sigh. I'd learned by now that expressing anything even remotely resembling dissatisfaction made me negative, or too serious, or Linda's favorite label for me, difficult. So I sat there, pretending to enjoy the paper-thin coffee and the Christmas playlist from a Bluetooth speaker that kept glitching every time someone walked past it. Then came the presents. Linda made a big show of handing out the boxes, which she'd wrapped in gold and silver foil, like this was some holiday magazine shoot. Madison opened her first, her name written in swirly cursive across the tag with a tiny heart dotting the I. Inside was a jewelry box, velvet-lined, and when she opened it, the light caught something that sparkled hard enough to sting. A necklace. Diamond-studded. Not subtle. Not affordable. Not for someone who hadn't paid rent since college. Madison gasped like she'd just witnessed a miracle in her lap. "Oh my God, Mom," she squealed, clutching it to her chest like it was a proposal. "Are these real?" Linda laughed, reaching over to touch her arm with the kind of maternal affection I couldn't remember feeling since I was 12. "Of course they are, baby," she said, beaming like this moment had been her purpose all year. And then, without looking up from her glass, Linda gestured toward the sad little gift bag with my name on it. No ribbon, no tag, no note. "That one's for you, Erin." I already knew. Something about the shape of the bag, the weight of it. I pulled out the candle, vanilla-scented, already half-melted, wick trimmed short, label peeled at the corner like it had sat in a cabinet too long. It wasn't even the nice kind, just some off-brand thing you'd find in a clearance bin at Walgreens. And the scent? It was like sugar and plastic and failure had a threesome and lit themselves on fire. "Thanks," I said, voice even. No sarcasm. No smile. Madison laughed a little, probably without realizing, and said, "Hey, isn't that the candle from Aunt Carol's gift basket last year?" She wasn't trying to be cruel. She just had no filter, no sense of awareness that maybe she'd said too much. Linda didn't even flinch. She just sipped her mimosa and muttered, "You're not a priority anymore, Erin." Just like that. Like she was explaining something obvious to a slow child. I didn't answer. I didn't scream, or cry, or break the candle over the edge of the table the way I wanted to. I just sat there for a second, letting it wash over me. Not just the words. The years behind them. Every forgotten birthday. Every time I came home from college and found Madison's room redecorated while mine still had the same goddamn posters from high school. Every time I called and she let it go to voicemail, then posted a selfie with family time written under it. Every holiday where I cooked the entire dinner while Madison showed up an hour late and got praised for bringing store-bought rolls. Every mortgage payment I covered when Mom couldn't handle it, every electric bill I paid before she remembered the lights were about to get shut off, every time I was told, "You're such a help," like I was some fucking live-in nurse, not a daughter. I reached into my bag without a word and pulled out the folded paper I'd been carrying for 3 weeks. Not dramatic. Not angry. Just quiet. I slid it under Linda's glass, made sure the corner of it peeked out enough for her to notice. Then I stood up. "I'm gonna get more coffee," I said. My hand was steady, my voice calm, but my heart? It was pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. And right there, just behind the bitterness and the humiliation, there was something else rising, something cold, something sharp. Madison was still admiring her necklace. Linda hadn't touched the paper yet. But they would. They would see what it said. And when they did, Christmas wouldn't feel quite so merry anymore. There's something about old houses that never really lets you forget who you were when you lived inside them. Every room remembers. Every wall, every dent in the baseboards, every floorboard that groans differently depending on your weight. Those things remember what happened, even if everyone else in the house works real hard to pretend they don't. I think that's what hit me hardest that Christmas morning, sitting with that used-up candle in my hand and my mother's words echoing like gunfire in my chest. It wasn't just that she said I wasn't a priority anymore, it was how naturally it came to her lips, like the kind of truth you stop hiding because no one ever questioned it to begin with. But it didn't start with the candle. Hell, it didn't even start with the necklace. It started years ago, way before Madison got her first manicure or Linda started wearing wine like perfume. It started the day my father got sick and nobody else stepped up except me. Not Madison, who was too young. Not Linda, who was too fragile or too selfish, depending on who you ask. It was me. I was 17 when the doctor said the word inoperable, and my mom stopped making dinner for good. One minute I was a teenager with plans for state college, the next I was learning how to manage morphine schedules and home insurance at the same damn time. I remember waking up at 3 in the morning to turn my father over in bed because he couldn't sleep on one side anymore. I remember heating soup in the microwave and pretending it was homemade just to keep up the illusion that someone still gave a shit. I remember helping him shave because he didn't want Linda to see him like that. That part stuck with me the most. Not that she didn't want to help, but that he didn't want her to see him broken. Like, even in the end, he knew she'd never really understood how to hold things together. So I did it. I held it all together. I paid the electric bill when Mom forgot. I picked Madison up from school when she stayed late for cheer practice. I cleaned the kitchen before the hospice nurse arrived so no one would think we were some sad case living in filth. I made lists. I balanced checkbooks. I canceled magazine subscriptions and renegotiated internet plans and argued with pharmacies that kept trying to send my dad generics he couldn't swallow. And when he died, I didn't cry. I stood in the living room and took a deep breath and went to pick up the goddamn death certificate like someone going to the post office. Meanwhile, Linda locked herself in her room for 3 days and Madison cried herself into Instagram filters. I handled the funeral. I found the cheapest casket that didn't look cheap. I called his old Marine buddy from North Carolina so he could say something meaningful when my brain just couldn't. Then things shifted. Once the house was quiet, once the casseroles stopped coming and the sympathy cards were packed into shoeboxes, Linda started acting like I had overstayed my welcome. The woman who once leaned on me for everything suddenly decided I was controlling. Said I made her feel judged. And Madison, whose entire teenage life I basically parented, just drifted into adulthood like I was a roommate she once had during a weird year. I've done the math. Over the years, I've put at least $30,000 into that house. Probably closer to $15,000, actually. I paid the property taxes twice when Linda missed the deadline. I bought the new fridge when the old one finally gave up after 20 years. I fixed the water heater. I even paid the pest control guy in cash because Linda didn't want a paper trail. Not once did I complain. Not once did I say, hey, this isn't really my job. I just did it. Because I thought maybe, just maybe, one day someone would say, thanks. They never did. Instead, Linda started hosting little wine nights with her new friends from church, women who wore matching cardigans and talked about downsizing while holding glasses like they were sipping holy water. Suddenly Madison was the shining light again, the daughter who came over for brunch and brought her cat like it was a grandchild. And me? I was the bitter one. The overly serious one. The woman who never left. like my staying meant I'd failed. The thing is, I didn't stay because I couldn't go. I stayed because I thought I still mattered. But that morning, sitting there holding that pathetic, sticky candle and listening to my mom praise my sister's taste in jewelry, I realized something that tasted like metal in my mouth. This house stopped being mine the day Dad stopped breathing. I saw her hand reach toward the receipt I'd placed beneath her glass. It was just a thin, folded piece of paper. Nothing dramatic. But her fingers trembled when they touched it, like even without reading it, she knew. She knew something was coming. And for the first time in years, I felt calm. The thing about revenge, real revenge, is that it doesn't come with fire or fists or screaming through the hallway with mascara dripping down your face and something ceramic in your hand ready to shatter. No, the good kind, the kind that lives under your skin and twists slow, comes dressed in quiet. It walks in through the front door in worn-out sneakers, pours itself a cup of coffee, and waits patiently while everyone else pretends the ground beneath them isn't already shifting. That's what this moment was. That's what I'd spent years building, not out of anger, not at first anyway, but out of necessity, out of survival, and yeah, maybe somewhere along the way, spite sharpened the edges. I hadn't planned it all in one sitting. Hell, I didn't even realize I was building something until it was too far along to stop. It started with double shifts, first at the clinic, then bartending 2 nights a week at a place that smelled like bleach and disappointment. I called it my escape fund, told people I was saving for my own place. But after the 3rd time Linda missed the mortgage payment, and the 2nd time the gas company called me directly because the account had my name on it just in case, I realized I wasn't saving for something new, I was saving something old. Something that should have been protected by the woman who brought me into this world, but instead was slowly being sunk by her carelessness. I paid off the missed payments quietly. No announcements. No lectures. Just logged in, wired the money, and watched the balance return to zero like I was deleting evidence. Then it happened again. And again. Until I called the bank and asked what was left. The number wasn't as bad as I'd expected, not for someone who hadn't taken a real vacation in 6 years and drove a car with a dent no one else noticed but me. I asked what it would take to transfer the deed. They said all it needed was her signature and the right documents filed. What would you do? Would you have said no? Would you have kept pouring your soul into a house that never gave anything back? Into a family that treated you like furniture, useful, reliable, and easy to ignore? When I brought Linda the papers, I told her it was just a refinancing agreement to get the rate down. She barely read past the first line. Signed it with that same pen she uses for Christmas cards, her initials looping too big, like she was still the head of the table. I filed them the next day, paid the remainder in full the week after that. The house became mine in the same way you inherit a debt or a secret quietly, and with a little bit of guilt you don't want to admit you feel. And I never told a soul. Not Madison, who would have cried about betrayal without realizing how many times she'd betrayed me in passing without a second thought. Not Linda, who would have spun it as manipulation, called it controlling, thrown in every backhanded insult she kept locked and loaded behind that smile of hers. I didn't tell anyone because I wasn't sure what it meant yet. Because I still wanted to believe, in some twisted corner of my heart, that maybe one day they'd make space for me again. That maybe someone would say thank you. But that space never came. They kept crowding me out with diamond necklaces and passive remarks, with holiday invites sent at the last minute like afterthoughts. Now, watching Linda unfold the receipt with her trembling hand, I saw the moment it all clicked in her brain. Her lips moved as she read the total, the remaining mortgage balance, the payment date, the confirmation of the title transfer. Then she saw the small print at the bottom, the legal line that named me the sole owner of the property located at 1672 Glendale Lane. Her eyes started to mine, but I didn't flinch. I didn't look away. I just took another sip of coffee and waited. "What is this?" she asked, voice tight, too careful. "That," I said, "is the deed." Madison blinked, like her brain was buffering. Then she stood up, her blanket falling to the floor like a stage curtain dropping between acts. "So what?" she snapped, eyes wide with disbelief. "You're kicking us out now. On Christmas." I didn't answer right away. I let her words hang there, heavy and ridiculous. The drama of it all, like I'd just swung an axe through the living room floor and declared myself queen of the ruins. I looked at her, at the girl I used to make mac and cheese for while Dad slept in a recliner, too weak to eat. I looked at my mother, who once called me her rock and later called me too much. And I thought to myself, not out loud, not yet, you're only just starting to understand what it feels like to not be chosen. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't curse, didn't fling accusations across the living room like shards of broken trust. That's what they were expecting, some explosion, some validation of their idea of me as bitter, too much, dramatic, always ready to ruin a good thing. But there was nothing theatrical about the way I sat down, crossed my legs, and pulled a second paper from my bag, this one laminated, neat, printed on thick legal stock that still smelled faintly of toner and quiet satisfaction. I unfolded it like a menu, like something I might read aloud before dinner, and when I did, my voice was steady in a way that didn't match the wildfire building behind my ribs. "It says here," I began, not looking at either of them, "that I am the sole title holder of this property as of February 3rd, last year." That's when the balance was cleared. Paid in full. Legally transferred. I have full authority to sell, lease, modify, or occupy as I see fit. I let the words sit there, and the silence they left behind stretched long and strange, like the moment right before thunder cracks open the sky. Madison opened her mouth, closed it, and then made a sound halfway between a scoff and a wounded whimper. "So, you were planning this? Like a takeover?" I looked at her then, really looked at her, 27 years old, still acting like someone had just taken her favorite toy away. "It's not a takeover if it was abandoned, Madison," I said, and for a second I thought maybe, just maybe, that sentence would land. But she just blinked like I was speaking another language and stepped behind our mother, as if I might throw her out onto the front lawn with her cat and a sleeping bag. Linda stood frozen, one hand still resting on the arm of the chair, like she was afraid the house might disappear under her feet. Her wine glass had tipped slightly, the liquid inside wobbling, dangerously close to spilling on the carpet she loved more than she'd ever loved my handwriting, my career, or any story I'd told about my life. "I don't want you to leave," I said then, calm, controlled, measured in the same way a surgeon might be before an incision. "That's not what this is about. I don't want to make you pack your things or sell the house or do anything except sit there for one fucking minute and understand what it feels like to be irrelevant. To be forgotten. To watch someone else open the good gift while you get the leftovers." I reached into my coat pocket and pulled out the candle, still in its flimsy bag. "Do you even remember this?" I asked, holding it up. "You gave this to me last year. Same candle. Same bag." I didn't say anything then because I thought maybe you were just overwhelmed, or maybe you didn't have time, or maybe, I don't know, maybe you just forgot. But now I see it for what it was. You didn't forget, Mom. You just didn't care. Linda's lips parted, and for a moment, something flickered in her expression, guilt, confusion, maybe just surprise that I had the memory and the nerve to bring it up. She didn't deny it. She didn't apologize either. Instead, she whispered, her voice almost breaking, "You planned this. You planned this months ago, didn't you?" I didn't smile, didn't blink. "Actually, years," I said. Because it was true. It started the year I came home from grad school and found Madison's name on the Wi-Fi network and mine left off the guest list for Thanksgiving. It started the year Linda forgot my birthday, but posted a Facebook tribute to Madison with baby pictures and a caption about being blessed beyond measure. It started every time I paid a bill in silence, every time I got a call from the mortgage company instead of her, every time I told myself that family just goes through phases, that it would come back around. It didn't come back around. It calcified. And now it was done. She sank into the chair like the bones in her legs had finally admitted the weight of what she'd done. Or maybe it was just the wine. I didn't care. Because in that moment, they saw it. Not just the paper, not just the signature, but the long shadow cast by years of taking without giving back. They finally understood that being reliable isn't the same as being loved. That you can pour every ounce of yourself into something and still be told you're not enough. Or worse, told that you're just too much. The cat jumped onto the table and sniffed the edge of the candle bag like it was something new. Madison didn't move to stop it. She just stared at me with those wide, wet eyes, waiting for me to say it was all a joke, or that I didn't mean it, or that she was still the favorite. But I didn't offer her that mercy. I didn't offer any mercy at all. There's a strange kind of quiet that fills a house after a storm of truth rips through it. No wind, no lightning, just the dull hum of people trying to understand where the wreckage begins and what part of it belongs to them. The air was thick with things no one had the nerve to say aloud, and for once, no one filled the space with hollow words or the clinking of glasses pretending to toast a family that hadn't existed in years. I stood at the foot of the stairs, watching the shadow of the Christmas tree flicker across the wall, and for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel like a guest in my own childhood. Every floorboard I stepped on had its own story to whisper, and as I made my way upstairs, it was like walking through a time capsule no one had bothered to dust off. My old room still had the faded sticker on the closet door where I marked my height at 14, back when I thought outgrowing the doorway meant outgrowing the need for validation. The bed was stripped bare now, probably used for storage or guests who never stayed long, but the shape of the mattress was still familiar. That room used to be mine, but somewhere along the way it had stopped being a space and become a symbol of what I gave, of what I never got back, of everything I let go of so they wouldn't have to. I didn't take much, just a small bag from the closet with a few changes of clothes and the photo of Dad I kept behind the bookshelf. In it, he's holding a fishing pole and laughing, the kind of open-mouth laugh you only ever get from people who aren't faking it. He had crow's feet, a little gut, and the kind of eyes that saw everything. He used to say the house had good bones, that no matter how many times the roof leaked or the pipes groaned in winter, it would hold if you loved it hard enough. I think he believed that about people too. I used to. Downstairs, I could hear Madison still pacing, throwing out phrases like overreaction and psychotic, like she thought that if she used enough dramatic words, the moment might snap back into something she could control. Linda hadn't spoken in a while. She'd moved to the couch, holding that candle like it was some kind of relic instead of an insult that had finally come home to rot. Neither of them came upstairs to stop me. Maybe they were afraid. Maybe they were ashamed. Or maybe they were still trying to decide which version of me they were dealing with, the helpful daughter, the bitter one, or the woman they never truly tried to understand. In the hallway, I paused in front of my parents' old bedroom. The door was cracked open, same way Dad used to leave it at night in case we needed him. The bed had been replaced with a newer frame, sleeker, colder, something out of a furniture catalog and nothing like the warm, ugly quilt Mom used to complain about but never actually threw out. I stepped inside and stood where I used to bring him water in the middle of the night, where I helped him adjust his pillows and read him weather reports like they were bedtime stories. He died here, not dramatically, not in pain, just quietly, the way the tired do when they've given everything they have and know it still won't be enough to fix the ones they're leaving behind. I didn't say goodbye to the room. I didn't say goodbye to the house. I just walked back down the stairs, my bag over my shoulder, my footsteps softer than I expected after all the weight they carried. Madison's eyes followed me from the hallway like she wanted to stop me but couldn't figure out how to make it look righteous. Linda didn't look up. She just sat there with her fingers wrapped tight around the stem of the wine glass, like it might crack if she breathed too hard. I didn't speak until I reached the tree. It stood in the same spot it always had, by the front window, twinkling like it didn't know the world had changed. The ornaments were the same ones we'd used since I was a kid, the same chipped angel on top, the same felt snowman I made in second grade. Dad used to do the lights, stringing them meticulously, making sure the colors alternated just right. He'd hum while he worked, not Christmas music, but old soul records he played on a busted speaker in the garage. I reached into my coat pocket, pulled out the spare house key, the one I kept on a ring next to my car key, the one I never used unless something broke and no one else remembered how to fix it. I didn't hand it to them. I didn't announce anything. I just leaned in and slid it onto a branch near the middle of the tree, between the blinking blue light and a wooden reindeer with half its paint chipped off. "Merry Christmas, Mom," I said, soft, flat, not cruel but not warm either. I turned the knob and stepped out into the cold, the kind that bites just enough to remind you you're alive and not just passing through someone else's story. I didn't slam the door. I didn't look back. I walked to my car, started the engine, and drove away with no music playing, no destination set, just the sound of tires over cracked pavement and the quiet hum of something ending not with rage, but with release. And maybe that's the question. Was the revenge the paper with my name on it? Or was it the silence I left behind? Maybe I didn't want to own the house anymore. Maybe I just wanted them to know it used to be mine. And now it's just another place I survived.